Joy and Craig. Kia ora.
Kia ora, ko Joy Lanois aho. Good afternoon, I'm Joy Lanois. I'm a Senior Policy Planner with Planning and Resource Consents, here with our Team Leader Craig Cairncross. So we're here to present a report about how to process a private plan change request in Pukekohe. And the report considers, under Clause 25 of Schedule 1 to the Resource Management Act, a private plan change request from G-Bar Properties Limited to rezone 5.35 hectares of land at Pukekohe from future urban zone to business light industry zone, and to apply the Stormwater Management Area Flow 1 control to the plan change land. There are no text amendments or precinct provisions proposed. And under Clause 25 of Schedule 1 of the Resource Management Act, Council can either adopt the request as if it was a proposed plan made by the Council, or accept the request in whole or part, or deal with the request as if it were an application for a resource consent, or reject the request in whole or part. The plan change land, as you'll see on the slide, is on the northern edge of Pukekohe. It consists of 3 sites with frontage to Heights Road with a total of 5.35 hectares. There are existing industrial uses on approximately 2/3 of the private plan change land. Council adopted the Pukekohe Pairata Structure Plan in August 2019. And as part of that, the land in the private plan change area is proposed to be zoned business light industry zone, and the plan change request is consistent with the structure plan. The plan change was lodged prior to Council's future development strategy being published in December 2023. Under the future development strategy, the land is identified as being in an area to be development ready in 2040 plus. Under the previous future urban land supply strategy, the land was scheduled to be development ready from 2023 to 2027. So, having undertaken a course level assessment of the proposal, it's considered that it is likely to contribute to a well-functioning urban environment by providing more local employment options within the Pukekohe area, even if the development capacity is out of sequence with planned land release. Approximately 2/3 of the land already contains light industrial activities. There's a second slide with an aerial photo showing that. And if the private plan change is accepted for processing, it will be subject to notification and further assessment. So we're recommending that it is accepted for processing under Clause 25(2)(b) of Schedule 1 of the Resource Management Act. And having regard to relevant case law, it doesn't meet the criteria for rejection under Clause 25(4) of that schedule, and it's more appropriate to accept the request than to adopt it or treat it as a resource consent. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Kia ora, thank you. I think it is pretty straightforward, and I just know that Councillor Baker wants to move, and I'm happy to second. But if there are questions, Councillor Darby.
Thanks. Can you just, at paragraph 42, and I'll probably read that mostly in full. The infrastructure and funding concerns indicated as being a major issue in the FDS are arguably not as acute here as in other locations. So that doesn't say then there's an absence of acuteness, they're just not as acute. I want some clarification on that, because there are infrastructure constraints that have been particularly identified by Watercare. And I know infrastructure issues at paragraph 58 says they'll be addressed in detail later on. But at paragraph 54, you emphasise that infrastructure and funding are important matters to be considered at this stage. Can you just, I just want to take, flesh that out a little bit and understand it more, please.
Right, so looking at infrastructure, we've got stormwater. At the moment, the site has its own private stormwater network, and it discharges to a creek ultimately, and the application presents a stormwater approach that that would be again on site and privately funded, so that wouldn't be using public stormwater. In terms of water supply, again, currently there is an on-site tank and groundwater take, but there is a nearby bulk water supply network, which in the Pairata Road section of State Highway 22, which Watercare have advised could be connected to. The main infrastructure, transport as well, there's no major transport issues according to our experts in Auckland Transport. In terms of wastewater, there are some restrictions on further development on the site because a pump station is needed between the site and the wastewater main treatment plant, and until that extra pump station goes in, then there's no capacity for future development on the site. Under the funding agreement for Watercare, that is scheduled to have some work done on it and be ready by 2028.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and it's pretty much what I've read there as well. Can I just ask the Chief of Strategy, if that's the job title still, might have changed. Just in terms of the recommendations, I think we were for the private plan changes, we did discuss last year that the resolutions or the recommendations would include identifying that council will be making a submission. So do we have that here? I can't quite see that.
Through the chair, we don't, and we normally do those as chair's recs as opposed to staff identifying that as a recommendation. We haven't recommended that at this point. That could be done, right now, based perhaps on your concerns and if the rest of the committee agrees. And you will find that the chair has a recommendation to that effect to do a submission in the next one that you're looking at, but not for this. So really happy to to put that together if that's something you want.
So, Chair, I think it's good to have it and on this one as well, because there are some infrastructure issues here, and that's why the FDS is written the way it is, pushing that out to 2040. So I'd like to pick that opportunity up and have it on this one. Can that be done?
Yep, if you want to produce some words. The only reason why we've got a pretty lengthy one for the next one, but the advice was on this because largely most of the current uses, it's increasing the current use that we thought in this case it wouldn't require us to do that, but I'm happy to reinforce what we've already going to reinforce anyway through the council view on the thing. But if you have some, is it just council should, yeah. We could probably steal the first part of the one on the next one. So we'll just steal the first part of the one we're going to use for the next item.
I'll let you and the Chief of Strategy work it out.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, yeah. It was just on the note, it was kind of at the time staff said largely, I mean, I probably shouldn't speak through, but largely the advice was that because it's a very similar use to the current, the effects would be sorted through the consenting. But is there any other questions? Oh, sorry, Councillor Sayers.
Oh, sorry. No, I'll reserve it for speaking.
Councillor Sayers.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Darby asked the exact question I was going to ask, and thank you for accommodating his request to the recommendation. Maybe my only other thought might be around the road, because if this goes ahead, then landowners on the other side of the road might be tempted to do the same. So can I just get clarification about the road improvements?
There have been some discussions with Auckland Transport about some road upgrades, and Auckland Transport are happy that that could be sorted out. There is a recent confirmation of designation south of the railway line of one of the supporting growth major routes around the northwest of Pukekohe. So that's not Heights Road, that is south of the railway line. So the site is going to be quite close to that big new road eventually.
Okay, and in terms of the local board input, any comment there from them?
Sorry, we don't go to the local board at this point. Once, if it's accepted for processing, then once it is notified and submissions have been received, we go to the local board and ask them to give feedback on the private plan change at that point.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm prepared to support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. And we've just got some wording coming through. When it's ready, we'll put it up on the screen, because of course I'm only the seconder, so Councillor Baker will have to either accept it as the mover or we could do an amendment. Are there any other questions? Sorry. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, through the chair, just in terms of that recommendation we're putting up, it is that the council do a submission requesting the request be declined unless council's concerns around the following matters are appropriately addressed, and we've listed capacity and funding and financing of the infrastructure required to support the development. So that those words will come up.
I'm wondering, I didn't think you would say declined. Yeah. Okay.
To raise them, do you want to say raise the matters or something? Or?
Yeah, the matters should be addressed, but I'm not sure we should.
Chair, if it's helpful, my support wasn't for declining it, it was trying to promote it. Yeah.
Councillor Baker, is there some word changes that you would support any of that? Or?
No, I just don't think it's necessary, so I won't support it in any way, shape or form. So if he wants to put it up as an amendment, Chris can knock his socks off, but I won't be supporting that.
I'm happy to second the original recommendations if it's of help.
No, it's so it's myself and Councillor Baker have moved the original, but if Councillor Darby, you would like to move this, if you... Councillor Baker doesn't want to incorporate. Yeah. So if this is the correct wording, normally with an amendment we would send it.
Okay, I'll seek a second for the amendment with the D. And just speaking to that, look, we can't be bystanders. You've read the FDS here. The FDS this is land ready in 2040. There is infrastructure to build. Now we have a request to bring it earlier. Now, it may be satisfied, but we've got to be active as a councillor. We can't be bystanders, standing on the sidelines impotently on these issues. We can't. There may be absolute merit in this, and I suggest there probably is. But even taking that view, we need to be actively involved. That's our job. Simple as that. Especially when you look at the FDS saying the year 2040. That's 15 years out. That's all.
Chair, what's the status of the officers still at the table? Are we into debate, or are we into questions, or are we, where are we at?
Apologies, if there's any other questions, sorry, it did become, oh, sorry.
I do have a question,
Yeah.
Chair. There's no seconder to the motion, to that amendment, is there?
Yes, councillor Fully, and apologies, I did step outside of standing orders because I thought we'd be able to incorporate it, but maybe the wording was slightly different than what I expected. So that's where we trailed off to, so that was my fault. So we'll go back to questions and leave the debate there. Sorry about that. Councillor Sayers, question, and then I think someone else. Oh, sorry, Member Ashby after that. Councillor Sayers, you go back to you.
Only question is it possible to move it as a separate motion to the main amendment, you know, so
That's
we can
what we will
Yeah.
do after we've finished questioning. Apologies, I
Okay,
went into the debate. Member
that was all. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you. Just one question from me. It's just a process question, and it relates to the iwi engagement. And I see in the report Ngāti Tamaoho provided a cultural report and things like stormwater where we worked through at least to some degree. My question is, this is a plan change, and under the RPS B6.5.2 subclause 7, it talks about plan changes and structure plans. When they come through, they need to do a number of things. One is identify mana whenua values, identify sites, places suitable for scheduling, and 3, reflect those mana whenua values. So it's a process question, and it's one I've raised before at this committee because my feeling is it gets missed in the assessment. So I guess the question is, does that get assessed and commented on and weighed against the application at this point, or is that a council submission sort of process?
Okay, so at the moment we are debating whether to accept, adopt, reject the plan change, and we have an application which includes a report from Ngāti Tamaoho, and if the plan change is accepted, all the iwi authorities will get an opportunity to make a submission. And just going back to the wider Pukekohe context, when we did the structure plan 2017 through to 2019, we had a big group of local iwi involved with that over a couple of years worth of hui and so on, and they were involved in the structure plan and in the zoning and proposed zoning under the structure plan of the site for business light industry. That answers your question.
Not quite. So just what I'm getting at is this is a very directive and specific provision in the unitary plan, and it doesn't say just engage, and it doesn't say just do a report. It basically says you have to go, the applicant has to go further than just show up, which is kind of what you're saying is, or I'm paraphrasing, is, you know, they engage with iwi, they come around, they have a hui, have a cup of tea, maybe write a report, and then who knows. But this is a very directive provision that says council is to assess if these things happen. So from a haukura point of view, because it's an RPS issue, I'd be very keen to see, understand rather, how council assesses when it's structure plans and plan changes, how this specific provision is taken into account. So has it been met or not? Is there engagement, but has this provision been met or not?
That is something that we do look at once a plan change is notified as part of the assessment. We're just saying what we've been given, and this decision is to move on to, if we're going to notify it, we'll therefore have to go and assess it.
Okay, thank you. So that would be part of that submission process. Cool, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Are there any other questions at all? I guess I just have one question pertaining to the discussion we've just had and the discussion we had pre the meeting, which is the move to, we consider this what do we consider about the move from future urban to actually light industrial in this case? So we usually have much higher concerns around infrastructure, around residential future urban.
In this case, we have got one piece of land consisting of 3 sites. 2/3 of it is already used for business, light industrial purposes. You've also got a boundary around it created by the road, and at the north of it, the road to the east of it, and the cemetery bends round behind the south and the west of it, so it's like a little pocket.
Thank you. And Deputy Chair.
Well, I just had a question. I really do want to clarify with Andy, because this is a pragmatic plan change, as far as I'm concerned. But for consistency, Councillor Darby has raised the issues that we continue to talk about. So how do we find the sweet spot of doing the right thing? Rezoning from future urban to business light industrial is something that we are consistently supportive of.
Probably a question for Councillor Darby, or maybe in debate with Councillor Baker, but I personally, the D is better than it was because it was the decline, where this is just stating what's already in the report. But
I'll listen for debate.
we might have to go into debate for that to be answered. Yeah. No other questions for officers? Cool, thank you. Right, so to take everyone back to where we were, and I apologise for confusing the matter. Councillor Baker moved the original, I seconded. Councillor Darby and Councillor Foley have moved an amendment, although I just want to check you're happy with those words, or you want to revert?
Yeah, no, I'm happy with those words because that actually focuses it even more, and it takes out the word declined, which I think you've addressed. So it's all about addressing those capacity, funding and financing challenges which are identified in the report.
Right, is there speaking, so Councillor Darby's had a speaking turn on the amendment. Did anyone else have a speaking? Councillor Baker.
Yes, I mean, I just find this a pointless amendment, and why I say that is that stuff is covered anyway. Watercare will front up, it's covered in the report. That's when they have the hearing, they will be discussing that, or when they put into that. This is a pointless thing, and so understanding that site, it was a meat factory, it was a meatworks, and so for years it has operated there, and I'm talking decades and decades. When I was at school, my friend's father owned the meatworks. They exported lamb. Next door to it, well, now part of that is a tractor centre. All, as you saw from the photographs, there are existing industrial and commercial operations. This is a pragmatic tidying up of that zone. It's a future urban zone. It was included within the unitary plan as a future urban zone. It is already operating. The amendment achieves nothing, and I get it when we're talking other areas which are out in the middle of nowhere, and it's a non-contiguous sort of type thing, and it's a new thing and new use for that land. This is not. This is a long-standing industrial commercial area. They are trying to just tidy up, and that makes no sense. And we should be actually spending our time debating stuff that's really important.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? No, just from me, and it was, Councillor Sayers, I'll let you go first. Councillor Sayers.
Thank you, Richard. I'd like to move D by division.
Yeah, that's fine. I just quickly, the thing is, voting against this is a bit like voting for it. It's going to be pointless either way, but I'm a bit, we're not bystanders at this committee this term. We've had our first appeal of a plan change. We've had our first decline of a plan change. I think, the appeal was something we'd not done before, and every single item of residential that we think is outside the FDS, we have put strong submissions on, and we have a chair's rec for the next. The issue with this one, and why I won't support this, is because actually this is what the FDS called for, more jobs, more zoning that doesn't just drop people in the middle of nowhere, and because it is 2/3 doing what the zoning wants it to do anyway, and the fact that the infrastructure mentioned, Watercare, Auckland Transport and others are generally fine, and the staging of this will work. So although I agree it'll already be done, it's a bit of a moot point voting for or against this, but I do want to see more of this type of work happening where we're actually seeing good developments of jobs nearer where, sadly, the unitary plan and other plans have spread sprawl across our city. So I won't be supporting this, but it's not meaning that I don't want the infrastructure to be there. I just want, I'm a bit concerned about the next one, and that makes a bit more sense, so kia ora. Right, we're going for a division.
Thank you, members. You're voting for the amendment, which is on your screen. Chair Hulls.
No.
Member Ashby.
Hull, no.
Councillor Baker.
No.
Deputy Chair Dalton.
No.
Councillor Darby.
For.
Councillor Ferry.
Against.
Councillor Filipina.
Against.
Councillor Fletcher.
No.
Councillor Foley.
For.
Member Henare.
No.
Councillor Henderson.
No.
Councillor Lee. Councillor Leone.
For.
Councillor Newman. Councillor Sayers.
Just ask for those voting in the office to put their in the room to put their mics on because we can't hear it online. But I'm a nay. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Simpson.
Sorry, hold on, the against. Sorry, couldn't find the button.
Thank you. Councillor Turner.
Against.
Councillor Walker.
No.
Councillor Watson. So that amendment is lost, 3 votes to 15.
Thank you. And then back to the substantive. Oh, Councillor Fletcher.
I simply want to add to what Councillor Baker has said, having grown up in the South, memories back to the 1950s. This is tidying up something that has needed tidying up. The officers have done a good job on it, and I hope it gets everyone's support.
Cool. Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Any other comment? Sorry? Oh, no, yeah, he said no. It was just his name that showed absent. Thank you. And Councillor Fletcher, your mic's still on. Thank you. Are there any other speakers? No. Right, all those in favour? Any opposed? Cool. Thank you very much. We go on to item